Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So today I decided to have a Antorus preparation guide for balanced druids. I've done two other preparation guides for holy paladins and restoration druids, and I decided to have a look at balanced druids just because of the changes that are happening are very interesting. They're going to alter balanced druid rotation. It's going to alter different combo sets for single target AoE. Some of the legendaries are going to rise, some of the legendaries are going to stay the same, but I find it to be very interesting. And this is going to follow the similar format that I used before. It's going to cover things like legendaries. I'm probably going to tie in legendaries and tiers in the same section, just because when you're talking about legendaries, tiers actually are very closely tied in to... You're not going to use certain legendaries because they're going to take up certain tier slots. That's the basic concept of some of the viability of legendaries. We're going to be talking about talents, we're going to be talking about trinkets, and we're going to be talking about stat priority and somewhere in there rotational changes. So before I'm actually going to talk about balanced druids, I like to give a mention to the Druid Discord, the Balanced Discord, because they provide a lot of really good information that is up to date, and I highly advise people when Antorus is released, because the video I'm going to try it. If anything gonna change with tier 21, I'm going to provide some comments, but check out the Druid Discord. If there's going to be any tier changes, if there's going to be any class balance changes, there most likely won't be class balance changes before Antorus, but there probably will be class balance changes before Antorus Mythic is released. So things might change. But keep up to date on Druid Discord. So let's first look at the legendaries. So there's a few interesting things happening here. First of all, as a balanced druid, you should have a different set of legendaries, a different set of tiers for single target and AoE. If you don't do that, then you're probably not playing your balanced druid right, because a lot of the tiers, a lot of the legendaries, some of them are pure single target, some of them are pure AoE, and some of them are in between. So basically, if you do have Honest Intuition, Impeccable Fair Essence, and Late in the Child, if you have these three legendaries, and that's the only three legendaries you have, you're basically set. These three legendaries are going to work really well. They basically allow you to make combinations that are going to be viable single target and AoE. And that's what we'll talk about in legendaries, combinations. Because combinations of legendaries, there is a lot of synergy between the legendaries and how they work. For example, for single target, Honest Intuition, which is the wrist, and Impeccable Fair Essence, which is the ring, which reduces the cooldown of your incarnation, which can work really great. You have to consider the Impeccable Fair Essence, which reduces the cooldown of incarnation. On some fights, that reduction might not be that great, because there's going to be priority adds that are going to be happening every 3 minutes. But your Impeccable Fair Essence is going to reduce your incarnation to, let's say, around 2 minutes or something. It really is depending on how you spend your Astral Power. But sometimes it's not going to line up, and you might want to swap out to something else. If you care about priority DPS, and if you care about priority adds, your rotation and legendary choice can be affected. If you don't, if you just want to go for the max DPS and don't care about anything else or what raid leader tells you, then you're probably going to be using different kind of legendaries. What kind of person you are, it depends. So, but Honest Intuition and Impeccable Fair Essence by default can be regarded as one of the best single target combo with tier 21 2 set and tier 20 4 set. Yes, balanced druids for single target will be using tier 20 4 set, because that sims the highest. And it's actually really interesting to see in this example, because they were using, for the sims, they were using 930 tier 24 set. So 930 is basically Tumusagera's Mythic, and they were comparing against 960 tier 21. And even based on those sims, tier 24 set with tier 21 2 set won out as the best single target over something like tier 21 4 set and tier 22 set. So you can see that tier 21 is quite bad for single target. It's not great for single target, while it's pretty good for AoE. So what this basically means is that if you don't have high level tier 20, you either go back to Tumusagera's and keep farming, or just try and get the highest possible tier 21, which can be possible if you get really high time forges and things like that. But basically what this means, Antorus is looking like somewhere around 50-50 in terms of single target and AoE bosses. So basically, if you're going into Antorus and you're like, I'm gonna be needing tier 21 pieces. You have to make your raid leader aware for the fact that if you do have tier 20 4 set available, that you're going to be using the new tier 21 only for not for all of the Antorus raid, only for certain fights. So probably your priority for tier 21 is going to be diminished because you won't be using it for every single fight. So that's kind of a negative point if you are looking to pick up tier 21 straight away, because it really does only work for AoE fights. Unless you get a really high Titan Forge. Hooray, Titan Forging. So basically, single target, Honest Intuition, Impeccable Fell Essence is really good. Tier 21 2 set, Tier 24 set. For AoE, there's a lot more different choices that are available. So for AoE, like I said, Tier 21 4 set is actually really good. Actually, I didn't really cover what Tier 21 does. Tier 21 2 set increases damage of Starfall and Star Surge by 10%. It's okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst. And the Tier 24 set, which has been buffed, when you cast Star Surge or Starfall, the damage of your Moonfire and Sunfire spells is increased by 20% for 6 seconds. So that actually changed, because it used to be that actually changed to, it used to be 10%. So it's quite a big change. There's still a few tooltip errors that I'm actually pointing into, they're going to be in the video, because tooltips have not been updated yet for all of the tier 21 changes. So keep that in mind when you're looking at tooltips. But AoE, there's a lot of different combinations. First of all, tier 21 4 set is great. You'll be using tier 21 4 set for your AoE. So that kind of leaves up different spots in terms of legendaries. I also have to mention that for single target, when I mentioned Honest Intuition, Impeccable Fell Essence is the best combo. You have to keep in mind that technically the best single target legendary is the Emerald Dreamcatcher, but because Emerald Dreamcatcher takes up the head slot and therefore does not allow you to wear the 6 sets, tier 21 and tier 20, and therefore by not allowing you to have those 6 sets, the Emerald Dreamcatcher overall kinda loses in value overall. But keep in mind, Emerald Dreamcatcher does seem the best for single target, but because it takes up your tier slot, it is not regarded as the best combo or the best choice for Antorus raid single target bosses. So for AoE, tier 21 4 set is great. Lady in the Child is your best legendary here. There's about 3 or 4 combinations for AoE fights, and Lady in the Child is in every one of those. So if you don't have Lady in the Child legendary or the legendary shoulders as a boomkin, you're kind of like, you know, it's start farming basically. So Lady in the Child and the class ring Soul of the Archdruid, which gives you Soul of the Forest buff, is actually really strong combination. Soul of the Archdruid, which gives you Soul of the Forest buff, increases damage bonus from Luna and Soul empowerments, but also reduces the astral power cost of Starfall by 20, which is actually really quite big as well, which allows it to Starfall, but reduce the astral cost and things like that. So it's a very strong combination. Lady in the Child, Soul of the Archdruid, good combo. You also have Lady in the Child and Impeccable Fell Essence Ring. Like I mentioned, Impeccable Fell Essence Ring is also used in the single target with Honest Intuition, but also Lady in the Child and Impeccable Fell Essence is also great because it's going to reduce your Incarnation, and Incarnation can be really good in AoE situations as well. But you also, another combination, if you don't want to rely on your Incarnation that much, or if your Incarnation doesn't line up perfectly because using Impeccable Fell Essence or things like that, you just don't want to put that much emphasis into your 3-minute cooldown, you can end up using things like Lady in the Child and Honest Intuition, which kind of is like a little bit RNG legendary, but it can provide good single target and AoE. Or you can even consider using Lady in the Child and the Radiant Moonlight or the Moon Cape, which seems to be simming quite well in AoE situations especially. So Radiant Moonlight, full moon becomes full moon once more before resetting to the new moon, which actually provides you with a lot of extra astral power, which is quite needed for AoE situations. So Radiant Moonlight can be a good combination with Lady in the Child as well. Lady in the Child, Honest Intuition, Lady in the Child, Impeccable Fell Essence, Lady in the Child, Soul of the Archdruid Ring. Lady in the Child is one of the best AoE legendaries for balanced runes. So you have to consider that. There's a lot of different choices. Personally, I probably would go with something like Lady in the Child and Soul of the Archdruid, but it really does depend on the fight as well. So let's look at the talents. So from the talents, it's not really that many changes. I'll be putting up some of the talent things on the video right now. So for the single target, the talents that we used in the simulation craft, you see Star Lord, Wild Charge, completely dependent on what you want to do. Guardian Affinity, you can go Restoration Affinity, doesn't matter. Typhoon, doesn't matter. Then you have Incarnation for single target, Blessing of the Ancients for single target, and Nature's Balance. So these Incarnation, Blessing of the Ancients, Nature's Balance is considered like the default single target. Star Lord is also considered like a good choice for single target and even AoE. For AoE fights, you can see, I'll be putting up a new talent choice. You can see that Star Lord is still there. Warriors of Balloon is actually quite viable, but only for pure AoE fights. It seems to be only recommended to be used on pure AoE, which basically is not really existent in Antorus. So most likely in Antorus you'll be just running with Star Lord even on AoE fights. You have Wild Charge, Restoration Affinity, Typhoon. Then you'll have Incarnation, Chosen of Balloon. Now you have to keep in mind that in AoE fights you might be using the Soul of the Attitude Legendary, which will give you Soul of the Forest as well. So that's like one of the default combos as well. So now you go into Shooting Stars and Stellar Drift. These are the default AoE choices with Soul of the Forest. So you have like Soul of the Forest, Shooting Stars, and Stellar Drift is the default AoE build. But because you'll most likely will be using Soul of the Attitude Ring, you can choose to spec into Incarnation for a better 3-minute cooldown on top of Soul of the Attitude Ring, which gives you more AoE capabilities. And it works really well together, which is very interesting as well. So in terms of talents, nothing really has changed that much. You'll be running kind of similar builds as well. Now it's the rotation that's actually probably the most interesting thing. So because, first of all, single target is going to be around, if you know your balanced druid, single target is going to be around the same, because you'll be using tier 24 set anyways. You'll be just opting in to use tier 21 2 set. Tier 21 2 set doesn't really, like, I mean, it just affects your star surge and things like that. Bigger star surges, that's about it. So it's not going to affect anything. For AoE, it's way different. So because of tier 21 buffing your dots way more, first of all, you'll be maintaining your Moonfire, Sunfire on all the ads. If there's no priority ads, you'll be maintaining your dots on everyone. You'll be you won't be going crazy with Starfall. You know, in tier 20, because in tier 20, every time you Starfall, the Star Surge, you'll gain a haste buff, 3% haste every time you use those spells. And you probably will try maintain like 3 or maybe 4 Starfalls if possible. Like at best case scenarios. You probably won't be doing that with tier 21. So in AoE situations, you now most likely will just want to maintain 1 Starfall depending on your astral power. You'll be maintaining your dots, Moonfire, Sunfire on everyone. You'll be spending your full moons, and then usually with tier 20 you would either use Solar Wrath or Lunar Strike depending on how many people there are. But now, if there's no priority target, you'll be spamming Moonfire. You'll literally be spamming Moonfire instead of Solar Wrath. You'll be maintaining your Starfall and you'll be maintaining your dots. And instead of Solar Wrath, you'll be pressing Moonfire, which is, I don't know whether it's going to be a fun playstyle. It's going to be very different. By spamming Moonfire, you probably won't be generating crazy amounts of astral power. So a lot of people will ask you, like, should I go with the second Starfall if I have too much astral power? You just need to make sure not to overcap on astral power. So if you are about to overcap by just spamming Moonfire, which is probably not going to happen that much unless it's like huge amount of big pull. I mean, there's no problem for placing a second Starfall. Make sure you just not overcap on astral power. That's the most important thing. Make sure you have dots up, and make sure that you're spamming Moonfire, because Solar Wrath is no longer in the rotation for AoE. Solar Wrath can be replaced if there's priority ads. Let's say you're pulling a big trash mob or in Mythic Plus, but there's also a priority ad that needs to die very quickly. Solar Wrath is technically going to provide you with less DPS, but it's going to kill the ad or priority ad quicker. So it is up to you to use the judgment. This is what I meant at the very start of the video. Are you the type of person who's going to try to get as much DPS as possible, or are you the type of person that's going to try to focus on priority ads and actually lose the DPS but actually help the team more? It depends. So this is the rotation. Rotation has changed quite a bit. Moonfire is a lot more desirable. In terms of trinkets, there's really not that many choices. First of all, you will be forced, or you will have to use one of the Pantheon trinkets. So it's either like Amator's Vision or the secondary trinket that's going to be released with Argus Don't Make a Fight, Norganon's Prowess. Hopefully I'm saying that right, which gives you mastery, and your damaging spells have a chance to increase your intellect by 11,483 for 12 seconds. Now, it's actually based on the simulation crafts for trinkets. It's quite hard to determine which one's better because it depends on your stats and gear. So you should be using sims to actually determine which you should be using. Usually, Amator's Vision is considered to be a bit better, but use sims to determine that. You will be wearing one of these because you can't wear both of them. So you either go with Amator's Vision, and then you have a choice of either Accurate Catalyst Injector, which sims really great for AoE and single target, and then you have Unstable Arcano Crystal, which again sims really great on single target and AoE. So you kind of have these two choices here besides a Pantheon trinket: Accurate Catalyst Injector or an Unstable Arcano Crystal. Which item levels you need, which is going to beat out. Simming yourself is going to be really good as well, but I'm going to provide spreadsheets as well to other people who did all the math. And thank you so much for all the hard work. Check it out if you want to show about the trinkets as well. So that's the trinkets that are going to be used. There's not that great choice. In terms of stat priority, everything's going to be very similar. Haste and Mastery are your number 1 and number 2 stats. Both of them are very close together in terms of DPS, so you should try and get as much Haste as Mastery as possible. Mastery is just great both for single target and AoE. Haste is a bit better, is better for single target than AoE, but it's really dependent on your character. What I mention here is basically a very default look at stats. If you want to know the exact value, you should be simming yourself. But if you're too lazy and you don't care about it, Haste and Mastery. Stack as much Haste and Mastery. You're not going to go wrong on both AoE and single target fights because there's so many AoE and single target fights in Antorus. So this has been my overview of the balance preparation guide. This video could probably be quite useful coming into the Antorus and maybe during the Antorus. So unless there's something drastically changes with tier 21 or class balance changes, let me know how you feel about this video. Let me know how you feel about the tier 24 set being super viable in Antorus. Let me know how you feel about the trinkets. Let me know how about the rotation for AoE. Moonfire spam. It's going to be very interesting, I must say. I think it's going to be very interesting. Let me know how you feel about the Druid changes. I feel the Druids have changed a lot. Leave comments and things like that. I'll try to answer all of them. And I'll see you in my next guide.